We're live.
Well, good afternoon, Mesa Public Schools. It is Wednesday, which means that it is Facebook Live time. Um, we have kind of a review of the year to share with you today and would love to answer your questions as they come in. I am joined today by Holly Williams, our associate superintendent. She and I kicked off Facebook Live early in this year, so it's kind of fun that we're coming back to close up the year. Boy, have we learned a lot, done a lot, and have a lot of reflection and celebration to share today. So, with that, Holly, you want to share a slide of kind of summarizing what we've done and where we've been as a reflection of the year?
Sure, I'm happy to. Cody, if you don't mind putting up that slide for us. We've been talking a lot about what have we done? What have we done this year? And capturing it all in one place seemed like a good idea. So we have created this just little timeline, and we want to walk through it today and share some of the highlights with you. And if you can remember, all of us do, that March was quite shocking. I remember Dr. Forlis and I think we were both maybe on vacation or looking towards vacation there at the beginning of March. And I had just come back from vacation in California. And I remember saying to my colleagues, things are happening in California. I think it might be headed this way. And sure enough, a day or two later, we were discussing the governor's orders to close both schools and businesses. And things that I was remembering during that time was so much unknown. And I was joking, the things that you think about a year later around, remember the toilet paper shortages, and we couldn't find Clorox wipes, and all of those things happened. And so we managed, and we pivoted. Our teachers were amazing and pivoted to remote learning, and they did it without blinking. And our administrators made sure that we had kids in the right places, teachers in the right places. And then the amazing part that I remember about March, and I don't know, Dr. Forlis, what you remember, but I remember how our support staff just stepped up and said, okay, we need to feed kids. We need to make sure they have what they need. We need to make sure our community partners are still making sure students have the social and emotional support they need, and things like that. And those are the memories I hold from March that I just think March, April, May, really, that were remarkable.
When I think about March, I think about we were enjoying spring break. And in preparation for spring break, I knew that something not good was happening when we had to rethink international travel for our high school students that were going to Italy. And then we learned something about, well, they're on a tier one or well, I can't even remember. It was a 1, 2, or a 3. There was alerts for different countries. And we're like, oh no, France. Oh no, London, on the phone with travel agents, rerouting our kids through different places. And I thought, oh, well, that must just be happening somewhere else. And then very quickly we realized that weekend at the end of spring break, our superintendency team came in on a Sunday and we worked from morning till night talking about what are we going to do, and had an emergency board meeting that evening that we needed to close our schools. And I had never experienced a difficult decision to keep kids out of school. That is just so opposite to everything I've spent my career doing, which is to keep our kids open to schools. And that was a memorable moment for me.
Yeah. And so we survived that spring, and we
Thank goodness.
we survived, thank goodness, is right. We got the kids home from overseas. I remember that was quite the challenge. And then we held our first ever virtual graduation ceremony at all 7 of our high schools. And what I remember during that time was the amazing amount of work that needed to go in to pivot from planning for an in-person ceremony to how do you really honor seniors when you can't get together and do the typical shake everybody's hand and hand them diploma. So we went out and searched for a high quality video team that could help us put together some really high quality videos for the night. It meant a lot of work at our high schools where they uploaded photos and came in and safely taped speeches. We were on one of the floors in this building, set up a mini TV studio, and one at a time people came in and gave their speeches and then headed back out. And as sad as it was for us not to celebrate together, I felt like we experienced a small success in that it was a high quality production where we really honored each student in the class, and they had an opportunity to see their name, see their picture, and celebrate together. And my daughter was a graduate this spring from the U of A, and I, I'm biased, of course. I think that Mesa Public Schools did as equal or better job as the U of A did in their production for graduation. So that's what I remember from May, our time in May.
And yeah, and thinking about families with grandparents from far away that said, "Oh my goodness, I could actually see this graduation," and a lot of appreciation for making sure that our live stream was far and wide. I think that that was
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah. So then in June and July, we really got down to work. We had 11 design teams of over 180 people working towards what's it going to look like to reopen and how could we do it safely. And through that work, we came up with that we developed 3 learning models, and then we came up. You've heard it many times, our Safe, Strong, Ready plan, and that's all things COVID for the District of Mesa. How do we handle the cleaning of classrooms? How do we handle mitigation strategies? How do we handle travel? All of that was a part of our Safe, Strong, Ready program, and we worked as collaboratively to develop that with teachers and with leaders across our district coming together. They gave up their whole summer, not that we could travel anyway, but nobody went anywhere this last summer, and we worked to create that. In the second week of July, excuse me, we presented to the governing board our plan to have 3 different models, and then we went out to the community and asked them, what model would you prefer for your students? Would you prefer an AB? Would you prefer a remote? Or would you prefer 5 days in person? At that time, as the pandemic goes along and you just don't know what you don't know, at that time the state hadn't developed these levels and monitoring systems where we could know exactly what the COVID rate was in a neighborhood or in a zip code. So we just didn't know that that was coming down the road for us, and that would be August that we would see that information. So in July, we thought we could make these offerings, and we we didn't know any better. And then it became clear by the end of July, early August, that there would be more guidance provided by the CDC, by the state, that we would follow when it came to making our decisions around what kind of schedule we would offer to students.
And I never thought that we would have a governing board meeting with 1,500 attendees. And moving our governing board meetings to a virtual environment allowed 1,500 people. I think at one time, I think we almost had 3,000 at one of our meetings weighing in for the unveiling of the Safe, Strong, Ready plan. So it definitely opened my eyes to the level of interest in public education. It seemed to me it was at a new high with a new level of focus. And I think that that has carried us through in the decisions that we've made throughout this school year.
Absolutely. And lots of people say, well, you didn't reopen right away. I like to remind folks that we did reopen right away. Unfortunately we opened in a remote environment, but we opened school when we were expected to, and our advertised starting date, we did not move that. We started school. It was in a remote environment, and as we watched the data closely, and as soon as we could in September, right after Labor Day, the week after Labor Day, we were able to transition into an alternate day schedule so that we at least had some students in the building. And before that, we had even moved preschoolers and some of our special ed programs back into the buildings so that those students with the highest level of needs were coming in person, and we were working through our mitigation. It gave us a chance to really see what worked, what didn't, with bus drop off, with cafeteria procedures, things like that, and eating in the classroom, all of those things. That time where we transitioned special ed and preschool and then did the AB really gave us great information about what we were capable of in the in-person setting for our students.
Another memory that I'll have is knowing that school was open and driving by a school and not seeing any cars. and not seeing kids on a playground. You know, we were constantly redefining this definition of what did it mean to be open to school. And I think a lot about what happened with technology to ensure that that you know over 56,000 students all had a device in their hand. And the ingenuity that it took to make that happen, and the partnership with the city of Mesa that donated their CARES funds to ensure that our K-6 students had technology. So um, I was in a school today, and an elementary principal said, "Boy, we had a lot of perceived limits on our kids that COVID has taught us that they're a lot more capable than we think." Um, for a while, for many years, we thought first graders have a hard time logging in. That's not a problem any longer. So we've learned a lot.
For sure we have. And then our big celebration was October, where we came back to 5 days in person. Right after October break, we began offering 5 days. We did have many of our families. I'm not remembering the percentage, Dr. Furlis. Do you remember how many chose to come back in person and how many chose to stay remote?
In October, we had 67% of our kids across the district choose to come back to in-person learning.
Yeah. So we had a lot of people in the buildings. Now, that
Mhm.
varied school to school, right? Some schools had 90% of their students in person and other schools had 40%. So it just depended on, the comfort of the neighborhood, how they were feeling about the pandemic and what they were looking for. But we were able to do that in October. And I think that's a celebration as well as part of our review of the timeline because we know that many districts around the state were not in a position to be able to do that, and here in Mesa, we were able to do the 5 days in person and offer that for our families who wanted that option.
And so all along the way, continuing to loop out and gain information. And every one of these changes created a whole system change at every school. And what that looked like and how they responded and communicated and accommodated. And all the while, working through our mitigation plans, making sure that they were in place, that they were supported, there was a lot of education. Um, Holly, did you talk about the dashboard when the dashboard came up
Oh, that's
when we
right. That
launched
happened right
that?
about this same time too, didn't it? Thank you
Yes.
for reminding me. So this is where we opened our Mesa Public Schools dashboard right during this time period in the fall, early fall. And this is where I had the pleasure of leading the COVID tracking team for the district, and we created forms and reporting strategies so that each school nurse had a way to both report to the district level the COVID positive cases, and the county also took reports on positive cases. So we were getting information from both our nurses and the county on the cases that were in our schools who had tested positive, both and had been on campus. So we created the MPS dashboard so that we could better inform our community about the number of positive cases in our schools. And what made a difference there for us was, when you don't know how many cases are in the district or in the school, you make assumptions based on what you see on the news every night. Whatever local news you watch, all we heard was the pandemic is overwhelming. And there were days where that was true. But in Mesa Public Schools, we had in that early days, we had many schools who had no cases. And so there was an opportunity to provide a very safe place for students to come to school. So the dashboard helped us show families the number of cases, and it helped us show our employees also what we were seeing across the district.
And I think that that was very helpful, and as it was our form of communication, and then also teaching about that dashboard, about what it included and what it did not include. So as we move forward and we think about how we're ending the school year, thinking about graduation, can you talk a little bit about that? What families can expect for graduation ceremonies this spring? Actually,
Sure.
next week.
Yeah, Cody, would you mind switching the slides for us? We have a couple more things here to discuss on the the next month here.
Oh, yes,
But
let's start. Oh, yes,
oh
let's
yeah,
go
yeah.
back. Yeah, okay. I got excited thinking
I
about, oh
know.
my goodness, graduation.
Yeah,
Keep on going.
I don't want to lose sight of how many vaccines we did because that's such a
Absolutely.
celebration. We were able to partner with our Arizona Department of Health Services, and they said to Dr. Forlis, if we give you vaccinations, can you get them in people's arms? And she said, absolutely. How fast can we have them? And they said next week. And we said, okay. And so we got together with our high school principals and said, would you be willing to host vaccination clinics? And we did 6 in January and we did 6 in February so that everybody could have their Pfizer shots with the right amount of days apart. We gave 4,000 shots during that time period, which was remarkable. Every one of our employees who wanted a shot was able to get one. We were flexible with their time so that they could go during their work hours. They didn't have to just go before or after work. We allowed them to flex their day. Maybe they'd, take a half an hour off to go get a shot, and then they just work a little 15 minutes or 30 minutes, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, and get their day done so that they didn't lose any pay. So that was very important to us. So, and just a little plug for vaccines. We are so excited. The Pfizers are now going to be available for 12 to 15-year-olds, and we are going to host 2 more vaccine clinics starting next weekend on the 21st and 22nd. The 21st will be at Westwood High School, and the 22nd will be at Fremont Junior High. So if you would like to sign up for that pod for your child, or even yourself because you haven't had one yet, you are eligible to sign up, and it's on the AZDHS website to sign up. And they are going to be at Superstition Springs Mall tonight, Mesa Fire, to help people sign up. So if you need help navigating that, you can. Will also have a supply of walk-ins available. Those will be fewer in number, but if you have difficulty logging in to sign up, you can walk into the site and they will try to accommodate you with a vaccine.
That's another thing that just creating accessibility to our community for the services that they want and need was something that we have a lot to celebrate throughout the COVID pandemic.
For sure. So now we get towards graduation because April brought with us much lower case counts. So we saw the effects of the vaccines in our schools as far as our employees go. And we think that many of our community members also were vaccinated, and they were taking mitigation very seriously. And they made it a priority to stay healthy. And we saw our case counts drop dramatically, which allowed us to make the decision that we could hold in-person graduation. So we're very excited to be hosting, uh, you know, several thousand of our closest friends next Thursday night at 6 of our high schools. And on Wednesday night at Eva Crossroads, we'll be holding their graduation ceremony. We do have to limit tickets, of course, because we still have to maintain, the crowd sizes, but we are excited to be hosting these in-person graduations for our graduates with live streaming capabilities so that those families that Andy talked about last year that could watch, this year will be able to watch a live stream production and still see their graduate participate in our ceremony. So I know the students are excited. I've heard from many parents who are very excited about this opportunity.
And we're really not ready to let our kids go. So we are then, after graduation, off we go to summer academies that begin June 1st.
We are offering summer academies. If you haven't heard from your school yet or you're not familiar, please go on our website and look up summer academies. We have opportunities across the district, from student credit recovery to enrichment activities to our Explore program. There are many, many things for kids to take advantage of this summer in Mesa Public Schools. And so we're very excited to be hosting that at every site. There's something for everyone. So I encourage you to find that program at your neighborhood school and get signed up so that you have a space reserved.
We also have a partnership with the city of Mesa. So if you're a resident of the city of Mesa and you are also enrolled in Mesa Public Schools, any of the summer program offerings that come to the city are provided for you at a 50% reduction of price. We are using federal dollars to subsidize those fees. So please, if you're enrolled, again, if you're not yet enrolled in Mesa Public Schools, this is the time to enroll to take advantage of all of those opportunities throughout the summer. And if you had a child who has been remote all year and they're ready to come to an in-person environment, Summer Academy would be a great way to connect with the school and to ease students back into that in-person learning.
It's a great point. We would love to have you re-enroll in your in person, and Summer Academy is a good smaller environment for students to transition back in. And in the spirit of transition, in July and August, we will be running transition programs at each of our schools for those students who did stay remote this year and who need some to be either refamiliared with the school or maybe introduced to the school because it will be their first time there. So stay tuned for more information. Our schools are actively putting those plans together as we speak, and we'll be sharing that information later in the summer about the opportunities available for transitioning back in the fall. So it's been quite a year. We have, when you look at it laid out like this, and I know that we've forgotten many things because there's always, in addition to COVID, of course, there, much celebration is around teaching and learning and the amazing opportunities that our teachers are providing for students to participate in inquiry and to think about their performing arts opportunities. We've opened our extracurricular sports. So while it hasn't been normal, what we've always experienced, we have been able to offer many opportunities for students to ease their way back into school and to do it in a safe way so that we don't see tremendous outbreaks of the virus in our campuses. And I think that is something that we can celebrate together.
Absolutely. And I think that our goal of our summer academies and our transition plans are building relationships. We want to solidify those very strong relationships of students to their school and making sure that there is that engagement and comfort level as we begin to emerge from this pandemic and launch into our new next academic year. So students who are not yet enrolled in Mesa Public Schools, both Holly and I spoke about enrollment. It's very easy to do. Go to mpsaz.org/enroll, and that you will see everything that you need to do to make sure that your kids are ready for the new year. Again, if you're enrolled prior to June 1st, you have access to all of our summer academies that are free of charge. So that's an added benefit. And then also incoming kindergartners, we are so ready for you next year. We've got a lot of transition plans that are created, a lot of fun activities for parents and for students as well. So when we talk about being safe, strong, and ready, we were ready to open up our schools for the 2021 school year, and we are very ready to close down the year and open up for the 21-22 school year. We are looking forward to a sense of normal as we come back. So I can't thank Mrs. Williams enough for all of the work that she's done, becoming a student of COVID, becoming a researcher of COVID, and then also that practical leader who provided a comforting voice and support to our schools and to our families as they reached out, trying to learn and navigate this crazy pandemic. So it's with great appreciation that I have for the work that you have done, Holly. And this was a beautiful journey of the year, celebrating many of the successes of so many that came together to surround our kids during a time of great need. So
Thank you.
it has been a good year, and you've been a tremendous contribution to that. So thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thanks.
So, any last words before we say goodbye to our Facebook community this afternoon?
I do want to say thank you to the community, because without their support around mitigation strategies early on in this year and throughout the school year, I don't know that we would have been able to open as soon as we were. That their adherence to keeping their students home when they were sick and making sure that they followed through with getting the testing and doing all of the things that we asked meant that we could create a safer environment for everybody. It wasn't easy, believe me. COVID was everywhere at some point. It felt like that's all we were doing. But without the support of the community and doing the things we asked, I'm not sure we would have been able to do as much as we were. And so thank you for that. I do appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And it has truly been a team effort. So it is with great appreciation to all that have been part of this school year. It has taken our community partners, our nonprofit organizations, um, our higher education, you name it. We have tapped on the resources, Mesa Fire and Medical, our we have just really embraced any help that we could have, and all with the intent of making sure that our kids were health and safe at school, and that we could provide an academic environment for them in any way that they choose. So thank you again for your time this afternoon. And next week will be our last Facebook Live for this year. And then we'll kick back up. Our plans are to kick back up in the fall as we start to open up school for the new year and start to get lots of information out to all of you. So thank you. We appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon. Bye bye.